moment we've been waiting for, the big climax of your story. Today, we're going to talk about the 11th stage of the hero's journey, the resurrection. Because let's be honest, your hero has been through enough at this point and is ready to have a win. I know over the course of this series I've drilled this into your head, but please bear with me because I'm going to say it again. Your story has a conflict. Every single story has a character who wants something and something that's standing in their way, and the entire story is that character trying to get the thing they want and that thing standing in their way trying to keep them from getting the thing that they want. These two forces go head to head throughout the whole book, but the climax is when they finally have their giant confrontation and your hero wins. They went head to head during the ordeal. They probably went head to head during the test allies and enemies stage, but the resurrection is when they go head to head for the final and biggest, most climactic time, and your hero accomplishes the thing that they want and walks away victorious. During the resurrection, your hero kills the big bad wizard. They find the treasure and get all of the treasure that they have been looking for. They get the girl, they rescue the prince from the tower, they send all of the ghosts that have invaded their house back to the underworld. They're successful, they're happy, and they're accomplished. And your reader is extremely satisfied because this is what they've been waiting for the whole story. Now, you might be asking, does your hero have to be successful? Does there have to be a happy ending? In which case I would say yes. If your story does not have a happy ending, that is not a hero's journey, that is a tragedy. Great tragedies exist in fiction, lots of tragedies exist in fiction, but I like to think of fiction and writing fiction as writing something that people read for pleasure. People read because they enjoy reading and because it gives them some kind of satisfaction, like they're eating a really delicious piece of cake. Your job as the author is to deliver the pleasure that readers are going into books wanting, and if you don't deliver that, then your readers are going to be upset. It's like if you write a romance book without a happy ending, or you've been following a couple and they've been fighting and then all of a sudden the couple dies or they get into a big fight and never talk again, and that's the ending of the book. Even though that might be what happens in reality, that's not what people want to read about in fiction. If you like reading mysteries, it's the same thing as going through this whole mystery and then the case is just never solved. It's just an open case at the end of the book, and the entire book you've been trying to figure out who the murderer is and you never get to find out. How incredibly frustrating is that? It's the same with the hero's journey. If you've went through this entire journey with your hero has fought for what they believed in, has sacrificed parts of themselves, has completely changed and become this new and improved version of themselves, and they lose the resurrection, and then they never get what they wanted, and they have to go back dejected and brokenhearted. It's not fun to read or watch. So I don't recommend doing that. If you wanted to write a tragedy, I think there's a different way that you would approach it. I've never personally written a tragedy, so if you want tragedy writing advice, don't come to this channel. So in this video, I'm going to give you a general overview of what the resurrection is, examples of it done well in fiction and in movies, and then I'm going to tell you about what you need to do in order for your resurrection to be done well. I've already given you an overview of what the resurrection is, but in case you want an official definition, this is the climax in which the hero must have his final and most dangerous encounter with death. The final battle also represents something far greater than the hero's own existence, with its outcome having far-reaching consequences to his ordinary world and the lives of those he left behind. If he fails, others will suffer, and this not only places more weight upon his shoulders, but in a movie, grips the audience so that they too feel part of the conflict and share the hero's hopes, fears, and trepidation. Ultimately, the hero will succeed, destroy his enemy, and emerge from battle cleansed and reborn. So big climax, stakes are really high, and hero has to be successful. During the resurrection, the stakes should be higher than they've been up until this point in the story. They should be the highest stakes of any single battle that has happened. You want the stakes to be so high that if the hero loses, not only does your villain win, but everything that the hero has worked for, they can't just go home and everything will go back to normal like it was at the beginning of the hero's journey. There have to be serious consequences because of this journey the hero has gone on. Like if they lose, their ordinary world is destroyed forever. They can't just go home and pretend it never happened. Following tradition, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Moana. In Moana, the resurrection happens when Moana finally has her second fight with Te Kā to try and restore the heart of Te Fiti. After she has had her fight with Maui, she's been reborn, she goes and she brandishes the heart of Te Fiti like a sword. She goes and puts her hair up and she reapproaches the inmost cave and she's ready to have this fight. She has learned from the ordeal. She now knows some strategies on how to get around some obstacles in the inmost cave to get back to where she needs to restore the heart. And so she goes and she does that and she's successful and there's triumphant music playing and things are looking like they're gonna go her way. Moana gets past Te Kā and reaches Te Fiti and is ready to restore the heart when she realizes that Te Fiti is not actually Te Fiti, the island, and Te Kā is Te Fiti, who hasn't had her heart. Moana then receives help from the ocean and is able to go to Te Kā and restore the heart of Te Fiti in Te Kā's own chest. And that is when Te Fiti comes to life from Te Kā, because Te Kā is Te Fiti. That's the big plot twist in the resurrection in Moana. And then Te Fiti is all happy and there's all of the sadness and lava goes away and is replaced with happiness and birds and greenery. Because Moana was reborn, she was able to not only reach Te Fiti and get past Te Kā, but she was also able to notice and acknowledge the fact that Te Kā was Te Fiti. And this would not have happened the first time around. It didn't happen during the ordeal. She restores the heart of Te Fiti and saves her island. Te Fiti is overjoyed. There's a lot of happy music. Maui comes back and helps her right at the end, and everybody is happy and celebrating because Moana completed her quest and did what she had to do and is now getting praised for it. In Star Wars: A New Hope, this happens when the rebels take on the Death Star and Luke is able to blow up the Death Star in his X-Wing. None of the pilots have been able to get through and blow up the Death Star. Luke is able to get past the initial defenses. He's the only pilot there with the opportunity to get the shot in the place where it needs to be in order to blow up the Death Star. And he uses the Force, which is something that he's been almost denying the existence of up until that point in the movie. He's been grappling, I mean, not denying the existence of, but he's been grappling with this whole question of faith versus technology and whether he should trust technology or trust faith. In that moment where he could rely on technology and try to line up the shot with the different technology he has in the X-Wing, he decides to use the Force instead, and using the Force, he can guide the shot right into where it has to be in the Death Star and blows up the Death Star. This not only thematically encompasses the question of faith versus technology, which is what he's been grappling with throughout the whole movie, but it's also the big climactic moment where the Death Star explodes and the rebels have this huge victory. And after everybody is happy and everyone is celebrating and it's this really exciting, good, triumphant moment. So what do you need to do in order to write the resurrection well? First, you want this to be a long and satisfying fight. You've been building up to this moment your entire story, so you don't want your readers to be let down by it. Make sure that this is a long, big, involved battle, and it's not something that is just wrapped up in half a chapter. When I write my climaxes in my books, I have them span maybe 10 chapters, 5 to 10 chapters of action-packed climax. I also write mysteries and thrillers, so I can get away with this. This might be harder to do in romance books, but if you write action or epic fantasy or sci-fi and most adventure hero's journey type stories, you want your climaxes to be big. Second, you want your stakes to be high, higher than they've been for any conflict in the story so far. The higher you can make the stakes, the better. If you can make it so your hero, if they lose the climax, can't just go home to the ordinary world they left in the beginning and pretend like nothing happened, and instead have the entire ordinary world of your hero be at stake in this climax. So if they lose, not only do they not get what they want, but they also don't get to go home to the world that they grew up in, that they know and are familiar with. That's even better, because this hero has to win. They don't have the option to lose. 3, your hero has to win. Don't make this a tragedy. Don't let your readers down. And 4th, make sure that this climax captures your story's major theme. I've talked about theme a little bit in this series, but over the course of your story, you want your hero to be dealing with some invisible thematic element that's not just the events of the plot, some giant thematic question that hangs over your story and ties everything together. So that your adventure story is not just a story about a treasure hunt, but it's also a story maybe about your hero deciding what kind of person they are or what is valuable to them or what they believe in. So your climax is not just a fight between your hero who wants the treasure and your villain who wants the treasure, but the decisions that your hero has to make during the climax also reflect the thematic elements that you've had in the story, and they have to make a definitive choice between the two sides of the theme that they've been grappling with over the course of the book. I have found that all of the best climaxes combine these invisible thematic elements with these action-packed, exciting climax scenes. I have made other videos on this channel talking about theme and how to develop an invisible theme throughout your story, so if you're interested in learning more about that, I have linked them in the description of this video. And finally, have fun with this. This is a really fun plot point to write. This is the moment that you've been building toward all throughout your story, and so you should enjoy this. This is when everything gets to happen, and this should be the part of the story where you're just flying through your pages and you can't stop writing and everything is happening and everything is so cool and tense and exciting. That's all for this video on the 11th stage of the hero's journey, the resurrection. I hope it was helpful to you. If it was, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. This video is the 11th video in a 12-part video series that I've done on the hero's journey. So if you want to make sure not to miss the 12th video in this series when it comes out, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and also hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when the next video comes out. My name is Claire Fraze, and I'm the award-winning young adult author of the young adult supernatural thriller They Stay series, including books They Stay, They Whisper, and They Return. I make videos on this channel sharing actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better, sharing things like writing resources that have really helped me, or things that I've learned in my education that have helped reframe writing craft things in a way that makes sense in my brain. So subscribe if that sounds interesting to you. Are you writing a story based on the hero's journey? If so, comment below and tell me about it. I love hearing about the stories that you're working on. I hope you have a great week, everybody, and as always, happy writing.